Welcome, everyone. My name is David Sandu. I am a financial advisor, and today we're talking about a Christian's guide to recession-proof your finances. I work with a lot of Christian clients, and one of the questions that I've gotten over the last couple months biggest question is, are we in a recession? And then if so, what should we do about it? And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Appreciate everyone who's able to join. This is a picture of me and my wife and my daughter. She just turned 14 months old, and so she is giving me the runaround, which is really fun. She just started walking, so that's really fun. So I wanted to start off with the scripture. This is a scripture that is really the heart behind why I became a financial advisor, and then why I specifically work with Christians to help them with their finances. I'm just going to read it to you. It's 1 Timothy 6:17 through 19. It says, "Command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant or to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us everything for our enjoyment. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, to be generous and willing to share. In this way, they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life." Again, that's 1 Timothy 6:17 through 19, and that's just kind of one of the my heartbeat as I try to help other people, especially Christians that are looking for biblical financial wisdom. This is really what I feel my calling is, to help them to be generous, to be willing to share, and to store up that life that is truly life in heaven. So, with that, we'll go and get started. Just before, so that you are aware, I just put up this disclosure. Anything we discuss or talk about is not meant to be specific tax, financial, or legal advice. This is meant to be educational and general in nature. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out after the class. I'll give you an opportunity there for that. So are you in the right place? Well, this is the right training for you if you believe God owns it all. It's interesting. We had someone reach out and say, "Hey, is this only valid for Christians, this presentation?" And I said, "Well, it certainly is open to anyone, but for someone who really has a stewardship mindset, that's the person who I'm really going to be speaking to today." So if you believe God owns it all, if you're a Christian and you want to honor the Lord with all of your wealth, if you believe that God's wisdom is relevant and available to your financial situation, you want to prepare for uncertain times, and specifically in a biblical way. You believe that you can demonstrate your faith through your finances. And then finally, if you believe it's more blessed to give than to receive, then I believe you're in the right place. So that's about who you are. So who am I? Well, I'm a former rocket scientist and engineer. I've worked for Raytheon, SpaceX, Lockheed, and a number of other space startups. Creator of the faith-driven financial planning system. And so this allowed us, my wife and I and our family, to pay off about $100,000 of college student loan debt, save up an emergency fund of a year, helped us become millionaires by the time we turned 33, and more importantly, helped us to give over $150,000 in charitable donations. It had also allowed us to pay cash for the last 3 houses we've owned. And I've been able to teach and advise hundreds of other families to accomplish these similar types of goals fast. And I'm not saying any of this to brag on myself or anything that of my own accomplishment. It's all glory to God. Everything that I've implemented is all from a biblical worldview, and really imparting biblical principles into my own life has been transformative for me and our family. So I know we're going to get into the presentation here in a second, but I just want to let you know kind of where I'm coming from, so you have a little bit more context when I talk about the recession. Just a brief backstory. My story actually started with my dad. This is a picture from me and him when I took him on a cruise. I took my parents on a cruise to the Bahamas a number of years ago. But my father passed away in 2014, and it was a pivotal year for me. A lot of things happened. I got married that year, and my father passed away, and a couple of other things. But this really gave me, it stopped me in my tracks, because my father was fairly young. He's about 53. When he passed away from a heart attack in his sleep. And I started just kind of questioning, like, what am I doing with my life? And if for those who don't know my story, I'll just give you this story about my dad. I was talking to my dad, and I said, "Hey, Dad, do you have any investments, or do you have any retirement accounts, or anything that you are planning for the future?" And to preface the story, I'm one of 5 kids. And he said, "Oh yeah, David, I've been planning, I've been investing for a number of years." I said, "Really? I've never heard you talk about it." He said, "Yeah, I have 5 really strong investments that I've been pouring money into over the years." And so the punchline here is, we were his investments. So he wasn't actively investing in the stock market or anything like that. He was investing into his kids. And so Had a really strong relationship with my father, but after he passed away, I had to walk my mom through a lot of tough financial planning questions. And this really gave me the spark to start helping people with their finances. I realized the power of biblical financial wisdom and imparting that into other people. And so I actually started teaching Financial Peace University to a number of churches and campuses that needed really solid biblical financial wisdom. Really was passionate about that. But another thing that happened in 2014, and this is part of my story of why I switched from engineering and rocket science to financial planning, is that Hobby Lobby, you might remember this, Hobby Lobby went to the Supreme Court in 2014 because they didn't want to offer abortion care and abortion pills to their employees. Well, one thing that came out of that was and actually, in a huge win for religious freedom, Hobby Lobby was able to, they won the case all the way at the Supreme Court. But one of the things that came out of that was Hobby Lobby. It came out in all the news, but Hobby Lobby had abortion manufacturing companies in their 401k in their stocks. And this is not a knock against Hobby Lobby. I'm sure they weren't aware. But I heard about this and I started thinking, man, does God care where we invest? Does God care if the mutual funds and the ETFs and the stocks in my portfolio are profiting from abortion? And I believe that He does. And so that's really what led me down the path to understanding what's now termed biblically responsible investing. And I started reaching out to firms to help me understand what is biblically responsible investing. How can I put my money where my morals are and align my values with my investments? And so that's what led me to studying God's word, understand really the true definition of biblical stewardship. I started interviewing millionaires and reading dozens of personal finance books from a biblical perspective. Specifically Ron Blue, founder of Kingdom Advisors, talked to him and just was really trying to understand, like, what is the true purpose of our money from an investment standpoint, from a savings perspective, all the different aspects, and just really studying God's wisdom. And after that, I found a team of Christian financial advisors, and I studied how they implemented biblical principles into financial plan. And that's the reason why I joined the firm that I'm at today, called Wise Wealth. And after that, biblically responsible investing was getting a lot of notoriety and exposure. And I actually was able to get interviewed for Yahoo Finance for how to find a Christian financial advisor. And I one of the things that I always highlight is just I would look for a Christian financial advisor that understands biblically responsible investing. And that's going to tie perfectly into what we're talking about today, how to plan and prepare as a Christian for a recession. And so that leads us into today's discussion, a Christian's guide to recession-proof your finances, 4 biblical keys to preparing for a recession God's way. So excited that you're all here. I want to just take a second and kind of define what a recession is. So for those of you who are not familiar, it's defined as a period of temporary economic decline, specifically that's marked by a fall in GDP, gross domestic product, in 2 successive quarters. And so technically we are in a recession now. Although it may not feel like it or seem like it, we are technically in a recession. So that's the definition of it. Current state, well, we have some stock market volatility, we have bond market volatility, we have seen hyperinflation in an enormous way from when we fill up our gas tanks to when we go to the grocery stores. It's kind of funny. I was actually talking to a friend, and he said, "Have you noticed recently that it's about as expensive to cook at home as it is to go to the grocery store?" And I hadn't thought about it, but I started looking at our numbers, and it was about the same. We go out to eat about once a week, and I kind of noticed. I was like, "Oh, this is interesting." And so, hyperinflation is a huge issue that we're seeing right now. Another one is higher interest rates, and then another one is impending tax rate increases. And so, some things that are happening and are going to happen in the year 2026 that we can start preparing for now. And so, very glad you're here and what we're going to be talking about today. The first key, I would say, and this is really for anyone who's a Christian and believes in the power of prayer, but the first key is prayer. And so what does prayer provide us during a recession or during times of economic volatility or uncertainty? Well, it provides wisdom from God, which I think is hugely important, especially in a recession. It places our trust and puts our trust in God if it's not already there. And finally, it provides peace. So I want to break these down here in detail for each one. So how does it provide wisdom from God? Well, James 1:5 says, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. Wisdom, this is one of my favorite scriptures because it beautifully pairs the difference between wealth and wisdom and money, and how they differ. But Ecclesiastes 7:12 says, "Wisdom and money can protect you." And there's other translations that says they both act as a shelter. So wisdom and money can protect you and act as a shelter, but knowledge gained through wisdom is even better. It can save your life. And so I think wisdom is preeminently important, especially for the Christian. We need to rely on wisdom that's found in the Bible from God. The second thing that prayer does, it places our trust in God. Proverbs 3:5 is a very popular verse. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your path straight. 1 Timothy 6, and I quoted this at the beginning, command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant. What that really means is we're not putting our hope and our trust in ourselves or in other things that are not God, or even wealth. It's so uncertain. But to put their hope in God, who richly provides us everything for our enjoyment. And then finally, Psalm 118:8. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in man. So prayer really helps us to develop that trust. So we've got wisdom, we've got trust, and finally, it offers peace. Philippians 4:6 says, don't be anxious about anything, but in every situation, and so this is also a situation, the recession, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your heart and your minds in Christ Jesus. Isaiah 26 says, you will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you. And Colossians 3 says, let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, since as members of one body you were called to peace and be thankful. So this idea of peace and thankfulness, as you can see, go hand in hand. So prayer provides wisdom, it puts our trust in God, and it provides peace for us. So I think that's the first key to preparing for a recession. The second one is planning. And so when we think about planning, there's a lot of different ways to plan. Some of the concepts that we talk about in a faith-driven financial plan specifically are setting goals, making clear plans, and escape emotionally driven decisions that are made in fear. Again, when we pray, we allow God to interface in our lives, and planning is the antidote to fear. So when we talk about goals, right, we talk about what are some of the God-given or faith-driven goals that He has placed in our hearts. And so I've just compiled a list here. You can look at them. Some people are wanting to be more generous. Some people are wanting to invest biblically responsible, pay off debt, maximize their employer benefits. They go on and on. But it's really important that you set those goals, especially in times of a recession where things might be a little tighter, or you might have more opportunities to be a light to others. And so, really setting those goals can help other people see, like, wow, this person is still accomplishing their goals even in a recession or a market downturn. So setting goals is the first one. Second one is really about planning, right? What are the questions that a plan needs to answer? Again, I put a list of questions up here. I'll read a few of them. What family values are most important to us right now? And during times of hardship, a lot of times values and core beliefs will show themselves off and show who we are really as a person and if we're really trusting in God. Second one here, what stewardship goals are we focusing on? What type of lifestyle do we want to live? Are we content with God's provision, right? Do we believe that what He's given us right now is enough? Where do we put the money that we're saving or investing, or how can we be more generous with our money? And what legacy are we building, and what legacy will we leave behind? So again, as we're thinking about planning, it's important to set the goals, understand what your plan can and cannot answer. And I believe that as a faith-driven financial plan can really accomplish a lot of goals and answer a lot of questions. And then finally, planning should help us stay away from emotionally driven decisions. I've gotten a lot of these questions here in the last couple of weeks. First one here, should I pull back on my giving to save money? Should I stay in the market? Should I get out of the market? Should I buy real estate? Should I downsize? Should I stock up on, and fill in the blank? As we remember during when COVID first broke out, a lot of people were stockpiling toilet paper. Not sure why, but really anything. It could be stocking up on canned goods or in the stock market. It's really whatever. It's important that we have a plan, because when we have a plan, I think Tyson said this, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. But when we have a plan and we really are trusting God, we don't have to be worried about making emotionally driven decisions because we can go back and reference the plan. So should we pull back on our giving to save money? I don't think so. I think we should, in fact, push into giving and be more generous so that other people around us can see what kind of light for Christ we are. Again, should we stay in the market? Should we get out of the market? The plan should determine all of those financial decisions. And when we think about a faith-driven plan, it's important that you understand all the different parts that and the counterparts of a plan. And so when we think about faith-driven financial planning, it starts with generosity. And then we look at income and cash flow. We look at investments. We look at insurance. We look at taxes, and we look at legacy or estate planning. So it's important that you don't make one decision outside the context of a full plan. So if someone says, "Hey, should I get out of the market or should I get in the market during a recession?" We have to look at the full context of a plan, and you should as well. You should look at the full context of your full financial plan. A lot of people have a misconception that a financial plan is all about maybe investments or insurance, but when you really look, you take a step back and you really look at a faith-driven financial plan, I believe it should lead with generosity, and then come up at the end with legacy and what are the values and the valuables that we'll leave behind. A faith driven financial plan helps you honor the Lord with all of your wealth. And I want to highlight this here. It might be a tool to bring others closer to Him. I had this conversation yesterday with a friend, and we were talking about how, as a Christian during the recession, they weren't operating out of fear. And when they were asked, "Hey, why are you not worried?" They were able to point back to their financial plan and also their trust in God, and say, we prayed about our financial plan, and we have this set. And so when the storms come and when the recession hits, we can weather the storm. And so I think it's an opportunity for us to reach out and to be generous to other people, to be willing to serve and willing to share, to be a light and a testimony for others as well. So, key number 3 is preparing. And this is where you might consider a little bit more of the meat inside of a recession proof plan. So when we develop our plans with our clients, we take them through a 12-step process, as you can see on the screen. The first step in that process is to start giving. And so I would encourage you, if you're not giving, or if you maybe have pulled back in your giving, I would encourage you to start giving, or maybe give more. And when people think about giving, it's not necessarily all about giving finances. It could be about giving your time, your talent, or your treasure. So it might be about giving more to your church from a talent perspective or a treasure perspective. It might be volunteering more. So don't just associate giving with money. And number 2, protect your family from financial emergencies. When we talk about financial planning, especially during a recession, there's 3 things that we want to make sure that every family is really prepared for, and they're the 3 Ds. We call them death, deductibles, and disability. And so, obviously, to protect your family from death, the easiest way to do that is to purchase life insurance. To protect your family from disability, short-term or long-term disability, easiest ways to do that is short-term or long-term disability insurance, and protect yourself from those issues. And the third one is deductibles. A lot of people will try to build up an emergency fund, but they're not really accounting for their highest deductible. So if something were to happen and you lost your job, but then you also, the roof was messed up, or you got into a car accident, or you had a medical emergency. So we want to have your highest deductible. It might be your medical or your house insurance deductible. Have your highest deductible saved away in step 2. Step 3 here, maximize your employer benefits. A lot of times during a recession, the stock market volatility is very high. And so stock markets will go down. And that's what we've seen recently. And so there's a lot of ways you can actually take advantage of your employer benefits. So some people might use dollar cost averaging to invest in their 401k or their company's 401k. But there's 3 things that I see people missing it on their employer benefits. The first one is not taking advantage of the Roth 401k option. The Roth 401k is a little bit newer to the game, but a lot of employers are starting to add it as an option. So when you invest in the Roth 401k, you don't get a tax deduction in the current year, but in subsequent years, and then when you get ready for leaving your job or making your job optional, you have that money that's set aside that's tax free that you can pull out. And so that's the first one, looking at a Roth 401k and not just the traditional 401k. And this goes for 457s. You might have a Roth 457 instead of a traditional 457, or a Roth 403b versus a traditional 403b. Second one I see people missing it is the HSA, the health savings account. Again, especially during a recession, it's important that if something were to happen to your job, and if you were to get into an accident, you have that money set aside for health expenses and healthcare. And the health savings account is a triple tax advantaged account. So you can put money in, you get a tax deduction, the money can grow tax free. And then when the money is pulled out for medical expenses, it's tax free again to you as well. So triple tax advantage there. Third piece that I see missing from a lot of employer benefits is employer matching gifts program. And so a lot of people that are generous, especially Christians that want to be generous and want to give more of their money, they can do that through their employer. And so a lot of times employers will match their giving. And so especially during times of recession, when you think about nonprofits or churches or other 501c3s, they might not be getting as much during a recession. And so that's one way that you can increase your giving and increase more to the nonprofit. So that's the third one for step three. Fourth one, pay off high interest debt, especially in a recession. If there's any kind of economic downturn where you get laid off or your loved one gets laid off, high interest debt is going to drag your income and your portfolio down. And so it's important to remove as much high interest debt as you possibly can. A couple of methods might be the debt snowball method, made popular by Dave Ramsey, or the debt avalanche method, which is essentially you list out your debts from smallest interest rate to largest interest rate, and then you pay them off. Whichever one you choose, I would just say stay consistent and continue on paying it off. Fifth one here is building up cash reserves. And so this might be, 3 to 6 months of expenses. We'll get to the numbers later, but average recession lasts about 10 months. Shortest one is about 2, longest one is about 18 months, but about 10 months is the average. And so if you really want to make sure that you're set, you could set aside 10 months of expenses. But generally 3 to 6 months of expenses is accepted as kind of the norm here once you follow in the first 4 steps. Step 6 is evaluate your taxes. A couple of things that are might be of interest to you. In 2026, all of our tax rates are going to be going back up to the pre-Tax Cuts Jobs Act rates. And so it's very important that, especially in the next couple of years, you evaluate your taxes. And there's a couple of different opportunities there, especially in terms of order of operations, that you can put money into different buckets. So you have tax-free buckets, tax-deferred buckets, and then taxable buckets. So it's important that you understand what your situation is today, but then also look at it over the next maybe 10, 15, 20 years to evaluate if you should make some adjustments there from a tax perspective. And that might mean putting money into a Roth 401k or a Roth IRA versus a traditional 401k or a traditional IRA. That might be putting more money into an HSA or putting more money into a tax deferred account or a taxable account. There's a lot of different opportunities there to evaluate kind of where your tax situation is, but then also where is it going to be in 10 or 15 or 20 years. Seventh one here, align your investments. There's a number of different ways that you can align your investments, but the first one I want to talk about is the experience that I had aligning my investments with my faith, especially when you're considering how can I become more aligned and align my values with my investments. The first one is biblically responsible investing, putting your money where your morals are, really being a light to other people and showing them that there is a better way to invest, investing in companies that are not promoting abortion or making money off of other people's addictions, as an example. The second one is aligning your investments with your asset allocation. So a lot of people don't realize what their asset allocation is because they don't know what phase of investing they are in. So when we look at, are you in the accumulation phase, the preservation phase, or the distribution phase, you have to reevaluate kind of what your phase of investing is, and then align your investments to that phase. And then finally, the third one is align your investments with the right time horizon. A lot of people are, might get out of the market in the short term and then not know when to get back in because they haven't aligned their investments with their time horizon. So I always tell people, if you're not really sure what your time horizon is, think about this. If you need the money within, 5 years or less, the stock market might not be the best opportunity for you. But if you have 5 years or more and you don't need that money, then the stock market might be more beneficial for you to invest. And so I think it's important for you to understand your time horizon. So align your investments with your time horizon. Number 8 here, protect your estate, especially in a recession, right? These are trying times, and you don't want to, if something were to happen to you, you don't want your family to be in a situation where they wouldn't be able to protect themselves. So this might be a will-based estate plan or a trust-based estate plan, but also reviewing beneficiary designations and making sure you have enough and adequate life insurance if something has changed, especially if you've gone through a marriage or a divorce or having a kid. A lot of things to consider there to protect your estate. You don't want to get all the way here and then have something mess up. Number 9 here, save for faith-driven goals. So a lot of times people will tell me they want to save for helping their kids with college, or maybe they want to pay off their debt as a way to honor God and show Him that He's first by not having that debt in their life. And so, whatever that is, whatever that, maybe they want to be more generous. Maybe that's a goal that they want to have. They want to give, 2 or 3 times more than they did the year before. Whatever that is, it's important that you understand your time horizon. So, I would encourage you to write down the goal, write down the date that you want to accomplish the goal, and write down the amount of money that is needed to accomplish that goal. And then also the feeling that you'll feel when you accomplish that goal. And then just think about it. Every day you wait is going to be one more day that you are not accomplishing that goal and not getting that feeling of satisfaction. Number 10 here, optimize your plan. This is specific for a recession. So when a recession happens, typically the stock market, and this is what we're seeing now, the stock market is down. Tax rates are potentially might be increasing as noted with the sunset provision of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And there's opportunities there. So one of them might be tax loss harvesting, and this is where if an account goes down, you can harvest the losses and carry them forward over the years. One of them might be doing Roth conversions, and so Roth conversions have been getting more popularity in recent years. But especially when the market is down, I always tell people, would you rather pay taxes on 100,000 or 80,000? So if your investment was 100,000 and it's gone down to 80,000, you might consider doing a Roth conversion. A Roth conversion is basically where you pay the taxes on the amount from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA, but you have to pay the taxes out separately from a separate account. And so it might be the right time to consider a Roth conversion, especially when the market is down and tax rates are low. So two issues there you should consider. It could also be reviewing opportunities for a donor advised fund. So if you had an investment that maybe you've bought for a long time ago and the price has increased exponentially, you might consider giving that to get a tax deduction. And one of the benefits of using a donor advised fund is you get the tax deduction in the current year. So instead of giving maybe 10,000 this year and 10,000 next year and so on in subsequent years, maybe you give $50,000 this year to the donor advised fund and then give it to charities over the coming years. So a lot of different opportunities there to optimize your plan. Again, I would sit down with a qualified financial advisor and financial planner and really discuss what opportunities are there. 11th one here, redefine your retirement. As Christians, again, especially during a recession, we have an opportunity to be lights to other people that might need more help. And so when we redefine our retirement to not necessarily when can I quit and leave this job, but God, what are you calling me to do? Because I don't believe our calling has an expiration date or has a retirement date. So really asking God, what do you have me to do? What would you have me to do? There's a lot of things that happen when you turn 50. One of them being you have more catch-up contributions. So you can actually contribute more to your investment accounts and to your retirement accounts, specifically like 401k or IRAs. But there's also other opportunities. You might consider giving more back to the community in terms of your church or service-related activities. So it's important to redefine what that means, but then also evaluate the non-financial aspects of quote unquote retirement, and then the financial aspects. So a lot of things that you might be considering will be healthcare issues, Medicare, Social Security planning, and long-term care. So all of those things need to be considered in the context of a full financial plan. And then finally, number 12 here, wise counsel. Again, from a financial planning perspective, accountant perspective, and an estate planning attorney perspective, it's nice to have professionals to help you walk you through some of these issues. Especially during a recession, there's opportunities sometimes to take advantage of. Might be, purchasing a rental property or some extra real estate while the market is low. And so a lot of different opportunities to take advantage of. But this is the framework that we walk our clients through. It's 12 steps. Starts with giving and ends with finding that wise counsel. So hopefully that was helpful. Key number 4 here is maintain patience and maintain peace. A lot of people, especially during times of recession, are quick maybe to take action, but they don't necessarily have it set up in their plan. And so I know we talked about this. Recession is basically a GDP that has had 2 successive falls, two successive quarters that have had falls. And so when we think about planning for a recession, again, we're thinking about how can we be patient and have peace, and also maybe take advantage of opportunities. So when we look at cycles of recessions, typically they persist between 2 and 18 months again, but the average is about 10 months. And so this might be a time to maintain that peace and patience, to have opportunities to invest. And so some of the things that you might consider from an investment standpoint, right? You might consider real estate. You might consider investing more in the market while the market is down. But how do you maintain peace? The first one, and of course, prayer. This all goes back to prayer. But trusting God, really trusting God, and understanding what is our role in our finances and what is His role in our finances. Second one, let the facts overrule emotions. Again, when you've prepared and you have a plan, you don't have to worry about what you see on social media or the news. That's why the third one here is ignore the noise, social media and the news. Don't let those emotional drivers affect your plan or your preparations that you've already done. And then lastly, you find opportunities to give, to serve, and to invest. So you might want to give more because other people might be giving less to their church, or you might want to serve more because other people might be serving less. And so there's a lot of opportunities there to do that. And lastly, of course, investing. So you might consider more opportunities to invest, especially while interest rates are high and the stock market is low, right? There might be more opportunities there for real estate to take advantage of that. So, how many are excited about what we talked about? If you're feeling a little overwhelmed, it's okay. We did cover a lot. If you have questions and you want to get more information, or you might be thinking like, how can I implement this in my own personal life? You can book a call, and one of the things that a lot of the things that you'll get on the call we'll go over your current financial situation. We'll discuss your values, how you view money, and where you want to be financially. We'll look at any problems that you're facing financially and discuss what you'll need to overcome them, especially during a recession, and especially taking advantage of any opportunities there that you might be missing. And then finally, we'll see if it makes sense for you to implement a faith-driven financial plan. So, who should book a call? Well, you should book a call if, I know this is a lot, but if you want to become a more faithful manager of the resources God's given you, if you want to align your biblical values with your investments, if you have financial goals, but you don't feel like you have a clear roadmap or the tools to get you there. Maybe you have a financial advisor, but you don't feel like they're helping you become a better steward of the resources you've been entrusted with. Or maybe you're a DIYer, you're a do-it-yourselfer, and you just want to make sure you're not missing anything. Maybe you want to learn strategies to be more tax efficient, especially during this recession. Or maybe you want to develop a legacy to leave the values and the valuables to the next generation. Maybe you want to model biblical stewardship to your family and to leave a biblical legacy. Maybe you feel like you have several of the faith driven goals, but you don't know which one to focus on first. Maybe you feel stuck or stagnant, or maybe you're looking for more structure and confidence with your finances. Maybe you just need some guidance and direction to prepare for the recession and the time that we're in. So, whatever the reason, I would encourage you to book a call. Again, on the call, we'll go over your current financial situation. We'll discuss your values, discuss how you view money and where you want to be financially, and how we can transform where you are and to where you want to be. We'll look at the problems that you're facing financially. We'll discuss what you need to do specifically to overcome them. And we'll see if it makes sense for you to implement a faith-driven financial plan. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I hope you got a lot of value and information and wisdom from this presentation. We talked about prayer, we talked about planning and preparation, and we talked about maintaining peace and patience during a recession. So again, I hope that was valuable to you, and thanks again for being here.